Hey, y'all. It is Charisma Cares Travels, and I am back with you today. And today, I want to talk about my almost 1 month long trip to Kenya. But this particular video, I want to talk about it from a disability and a special needs standpoint. Just because you don't have either of those doesn't mean this video won't be helpful. Hey y'all. So really this just ended up being a full review of Kenya with highlights about disability travel. So I'm talking about everything from transportation, the coast, safari, things to do, the malls, how to get around. I'm breaking all of it down. But I want to make sure that this video is especially helpful to those individuals because we don't get videos like this. So it's very important to me that I highlight these things wherever I go. So, um, let me start with saying Kenya was everything. I am the person that has dreamed of going to Kenya since I was a little girl learning about Kwanzaa. Yes, I know Kwanzaa was not originated in Kenya, but when I was 9, I did not know that. So that was my introduction to Kenya. Talking about drumming circles and the people and the jewelry and just everything about Kenya has always sparked my interest. So, on this journey of Africa, well, honestly, this journey of Africa only started because of my interest in Kenya. As you all know, I live currently in Rwanda. However, that was never to go. I was coming here to do some business. I do investments and I teach other women how to invest as well. And I was coming here to do that and got stuck. The community here was absolutely amazing. I ended up with a wonderful nanny, got my son started school, and the rest is history. But I couldn't abandon going to Kenya. So I made a decision and I said, we're going to Kenya. There were a number of hiccups that should have stopped me from going to Kenya. But y'all, when the universe speaks, it speaks. So let me talk about Kenya. And I'm gonna start from the very beginning. So I took Kenya Airlines from Rwanda, from Kigali, Rwanda, to Kenya. Y'all, now I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this is not indicative of Kenya Airlines because every time or Kenya Airways because every other time that I took it, I did not experience this. My son uses crutches and a wheelchair when we are doing longer distances, such as airports, amusement places. If we're going to be walking for a while, we definitely do his electric wheelchair. When I got there, to the airport, one of the things was that they told me I would have to pay for assistance for my son. Um, he did not get assistance in Kigali Airport under Kenya Airways. That was something I needed to pay for. Normally, I do have someone that helps us and escorts us. Although he does have an electric wheelchair, you also have to remember you're going through a airport that is foreign to you. You don't know where to go, what to do. You're kind of following along. You don't. It's not. Everything is not clearly marked. That this is handicap line. This is the handicap entrance. You need to do this or that. Travel is a little different when you're in these international streets. So not having anyone to assist us was actually a big thing. Um, but that was what they said. They said they don't do it. However, we took 3 flights, 4 flights in all, because 3 or 4, I don't know, y'all. I did so much. But our flight from Mombasa back to Nairobi, they assisted us. Um, and our flight from back to Kenya, Nairobi back to Rwanda, they assisted us. And no one charged me, so I can't say that that's a Kenya Airways thing. I assume it's Kenya Airways and Rwanda thing. I don't know. So that would be the first thing that I would say I definitely was like boo to. Um, the next thing I would say is that both Kenya and Rwanda, the process of getting on the plane is a little different. I am from Metro Atlanta, so I got Atlanta Airport. When you out in these international streets, there is not always would it be a tarmac or the airport runway. I don't know what it's called, but when you go from the airport and you have the little tube that you walk through to get into the airplane, that ain't in these international streets. So you come out, you walk down the stairs. You may need to take a bus from the stairs to the airplane, and then you walk back up the stairs of the airplane. And now you'll see a clip here. Well, what happens is that for that reason, there is this machine that they use, that you roll into the machine. It looks like a little small room. Um, it's white, looks like a container. You know how those big containers are that the trucks carry? It looks like a big white container. So you go into this container, and someone's with you all at this time. So you go into this container. The container lifts up, kind of like an elevator, going to the second floor, and then you roll into the airport, into the aircraft. So I'll show you a little clip of that. Well, those are not always readily available. So if you use a wheelchair, crutches, if you use a walker and you can't walk up and down these stairs, and this little container is not available, what happens is they have to carry you. So typically the container was available, except for when we were coming back from Nairobi to Kigali. Yeah, I do a lot of traveling, so sometimes I forget. But the container wasn't available, so we literally had to wait on the plane after it landed for about an hour for the container to become available, because we landed at 1 a.m. My son was way too tired to try to walk downstairs, and in Rwanda, they were not going to carry him. Whereas in Kenya, when we were in Nairobi, they didn't have a container available. They put him in that little aisle seat, and they just carried him up those stairs and kept it moving. They was like, we got to make it do what it do and get on this plane. So I'll show you that also here. He thought that was so hilarious, but they made sure he got on the flight, and that flight left on time. So all of my flights were done with Kenya Airways. Other than my experience in Rwanda with that particular flight attendant, and that may have just been her, I don't know. And that wait when I got back to Rwanda for an hour for them to get us off the plane. I've never been on a plane for an hour after the flight has landed, and we're the only people on the plane, and there's no other delay. Outside of that, I really didn't have any trouble with Kenya Airways. I will tell you this: whenever they tell you to arrive for your flight, arrive 1 hour early. So if you're doing international and they say arrive 3 hours early, give yourself an extra hour if you have a wheelchair. And the reason why I say this is that, first of all, if you're from the US, we use, do we use the metric system or do they use the metric system? We use a different system than every damn body else. Everybody else uses the same system, and we use a different system. So when they're putting in the wheelchair, every airline is going to ask you, not every airline, every airport is going to ask you different questions. Although I took Kenya Airlines 3 different times, I was asked questions, three different sets of questions about the wheelchair. Some people wanted to know, was it a wet cell, dry cell, or lithium battery? Some people wanted to know how much it weighed. Other people wanted to know how tall it was. Some people, like everywhere, every time I went to the airport and I thought I had it down packed, they asked me questions. Now, what I will say, I'm actually going to pause for just a second. So we are avid Delta flyers, and not, in these international streets, but coming from the States, we're very big on Delta. And if you've ever flown on Delta, you probably have this form. So Delta gives you a form like this. If Delta has ever put this form on your wheelchair, keep it. This form is gold. This form will answer every single question that anyone will ask you. So when people ask me questions, I just hand them this form. The only thing is, it is in pounds. So you will need to convert that to kilograms, multiply it by 2.2 or divide it by 2.2, whatever. For them. But the good thing is, like on here, I actually sat down with a Delta rep. There was a Delta rep in Atlanta. They were doing a pilot program, and we were chosen for the pilot program. And so maybe you all don't have this, but we were chosen for this pilot program to fill this form out. So we sat down and we filled out the entire form. So this is what it looks like. I would recommend, if you've never filled this form out, maybe create your own form. And what we did was I went on the manufacturer's website and I actually pulled all of this information off their website. Therefore, whenever they ask me these questions, I have it. I have the weight, the length, the width. It tells me how many inches it is if it's not folded, how many inches it is if it is folded. The battery type is a 6.6 AH. It's a lithium battery. It goes through the removable parts. When I give them my wheelchair, y'all, I fold his wheelchair flat. I remove the joystick from it because he uses a joystick, and I remove the lithium battery. This may take a little extra time, y'all, but these pieces are very important to his chair. So I take all of this off, and all of this is coming with me. And I have a wheelchair bag that I keep that in. I keep a tool in if I need to tighten anything. I also keep a wheelchair rain cover in there. So that goes into my wheelchair bag, and I keep that with me. That does not go with anyone else. This also asks if there's any pre-existing damages. Can they fold or collapse it, and how they can do so. But it's already folded and collapsed at the time. It also says that, can they tilt it? Can they put it on the side? So all of this is included. This is a lifesaver, but even with it all being written on this paper, y'all, I'm telling you, give yourself an hour to check that wheelchair in. I promise you that will allow you to get on your flight, because after I got there 3 hours early, because mine technically was not international, it was domestic, because I was flying from Kenya to Rwanda. Was it international? Maybe it was. I don't know. Whatever it was, they told me to get there 2 hours early. I got there 3 hours early. And by the time I got to my seat, I think I had an hour left. So you think if I would have got there 2 hours early, I could have possibly been late for my flight, because as you know, they start boarding before, like 30 minutes before. So keep that in mind with the wheelchair. Let's see. The next thing that I will say, so that's the airline part of it, getting to your destination. One thing that I do is, you never know what type of cars people drive in different countries. And when I say that, if you've traveled outside of just maybe like the Caribbean, what you will find is that in some countries, they drive very small cars. Even if they have Uber, in Kenya, they have Uber and Bolt, luckily. But they tend to drive small cars. So what I always do is I always pre-arrange my transportation when I first get there, and I look for someone with a van, and what I have them do is send me a WhatsApp message with a picture of their vehicle. That way I know that my luggage is going to fit in there and my wheelchair is going to fit in there. So that's what I did this time as well. From that point on, though, because my wheelchair folds flat, I did use Uber or Bolt. And in Kenya in particular, they have the option of the Uber, where you get a 3-person car, They have a 4-person car, and then they have a 6-person car. So, and I've seen them. So at this point, I realized that I no longer needed to pay a little extra for the taxi. I just chose the 6-person car when I needed to travel with his wheelchair and luggage. And if I just needed to travel with the wheelchair, I chose the 4-person car. If I just needed to travel with crutches, or I would say if you have a walker, then you could do the 3-person car. You can go cheap with that. Go ahead and do the 3-person. The difference between using Bolt and Uber, I use it goes straight to my PayPal. I don't have to worry about cash. Bolt, you do need to worry about cash. They want to be paid in cash. A lot of those apps will say you can use the card, but they really want to be paid in cash. So that is the difference between the two. In my opinion, both of them had very similar pricing. If it was different, it wasn't different enough for me to even notice. Uber and Bolt is very inexpensive in Kenya. So it's very, very easy to get around. Let's see. So, talked about the transportation. Last transportation I want to talk about. I did go to Mombasa, to the coast, and I did take the train there. What you need to know about the train. So, whoo, child. First of all, getting on the train is an experience. So, again, give yourself an extra hour to get on this train. Because I'm gonna say I don't even care if you don't have a disability. Give yourself an extra hour if you've never been on this train, because you need to go to the train station. You need to be able to get out of your taxi somewhere where you can get on the train, and around the time the train leaves, it is hella busy. So you want to make sure you get to your train station, and then you have to go through a lot of security checks, which of course I can appreciate, but you still got to go through them. So I would say there are three, four security checks. So you go through the first security check where you put your luggage through, and they ding it, like you put it on the conveyor belt in a sense. And then you walk through the metal detectors. Then you have to line your luggage up. Like literally, the luggage is lined up, and then you have to move back against the wall. All your luggage and your bags. It's lined up. You move back against the wall, and then the dogs walk down and they walk back up sniffing. And then at some point, somebody says something, and everybody rushes up to get their luggage. Then, after you go through that, you have to go through another metal detector. Now, in this metal detector, this is when I found out that you cannot take a spear or a knife on the train. I wasn't trying to do anything with the spear or the knife. The spear or the knife was to take back to my family as souvenirs. Luckily, my tour guide was still with me. Amazing tour guide. Stay on here, and I will give you his information for Masamara. So he actually took those items for me back to the office because I was coming back to Nairobi anyway. So he took those items with me back to the office. So thank the Lord I didn't lose them, but you cannot take them. Unlike on your flight, you can pack those in your check bag and take it. The reason why is when you check bags at the airport, you do not have access to those bags in the plane. When you bring bags in the train, you have access to those bags. Now, and I'll tell you how to book the train. It's called Medora or something like that. Let me look that up. So you will have access to those bags. Therefore, that is why you cannot take those items. I'm looking up the train because I want to tell you all about how to book the train. Okay, so they took my items. So I went through that. And y'all, I was there an hour early. By this time, I'm rushing, right? Because now I got like 20 minutes left. So then the next thing that we do is you go inside, and they allow my tour guide to help me to a certain extent. So we went inside, and then once you get inside the terminal, you have to go through another checkpoint. So just in case they ain't catch all your shit the first 3 times, oh, they about to catch it this 4th time. So you go through another checkpoint. And in this checkpoint, you put your luggage in again, and you go through a metal detector again. And then if you're in a wheelchair, you come back around behind it and go to the elevators. If you are not, you then have to continue on, and I guess there's stairs or escalator. The elevators work just fine. There are porters there because the porter was like, oh, I'll take her, and told the tour guide he didn't have to take me. So there are porters there. You go through the elevators. Y'all, I was pushing for time by this point to get to my seat. I did do first class. I don't know what regular class looks like. First class is all the way at the front. So if you're already rushing, you still rushing because you got to get to the front of the train. The seats were nice. There was a area to go eat, to buy food on there, to buy snacks. Prices were very reasonable. The people were very nice. We had never did a train like that before. We were always told that this particular train, the Madarake train, is like a safari because you drive through Sova. TSAVO Safari. I don't know if I just went to sleep, but I ain't see no animals. I didn't see not one animal. Let me know if you've done this ride from Nairobi to Mombasa and you saw some animals. I ain't see not a damn animal. So I don't know. Maybe we was asleep. At one point I heard a kid say something about an animal, but I ain't see no animal. Also, the kids, there were a lot of kids in first class. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But there were a lot of kids, and some of the kids were loud. So be mindful of that. Take some earplugs if you need to. Let's see. Wheelchair wise, we folded up my son's wheelchair, sat it along the luggage, and we sat in the seats. I don't know if they have seats for if you have to stay in the wheelchair. That would be something you need to ask about. One other thing I did do, and I recommend this anytime you take the train, I did put luggage locks on my luggage because your luggage is not with you where you can see it all the time. Even though I did do an express train, so there were no stops, I ain't want no foolishness. So there was luggage locks on my luggage, so nobody was able to get into that. Let me let you know, Madarake Express, Madaraka Express, is the train that you would take to get to Nairobi, to Mombasa, or vice versa. The express takes 5 hours. The local takes six to 6.5 hours. It has one stop. The express leaves at like 3 and 10 p.m. The local leaves at 8 a.m. and maybe one other time. So if you need to do a morning, do that. Our train was on time. When I tell you all that thing is leaving at 3, it's leaving at 3 with or without you. And the people are very much aware of that. I will say that Kenya is very much different than some other African countries and some other Africans. Those people are on time. When those people tell you they're going to do something in such and such time, expect them to do it. When they came and said they were going to be there to do my hair at 9, they were there at 8:50. I was not expecting that. That has not been my experience with Africans. My experience have been they always 30 minutes late. So this was new for me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let y'all know. It's a tangle. I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all know, be on time, because they're gonna be on time. So I really, even when I did my hair, I planned for them to be late. So I actually gave them a time to be late. So know that these trains are on time. They are leaving you. There was a slight delay at some point where they had to stop. I don't know if they were letting another train pass or something. It wasn't a significant delay, but keep that in mind if you are trying to catch a flight or you're time sensitive, that you give yourself the extra hours if need be. So we're done with transportation. As far as what we did in the first few days we spent in Nairobi at the Lotus Inn. I personally, you know, to me, this is my vacation, right? Yeah, I know I live abroad, but this is my vacation from regular life. So I did do a hotel. When I do hotels with my kid, we need free breakfast. Now, if I'm going on a solo trip, I don't need any breakfast because I'm probably not getting up, and if I am, I'm not leaving the room. But when we're taking my kid, now we need breakfast. So we did the Lotus Inn. The Lotus Inn wasn't expensive at all. It was like a mid-price, I would say, for for Nairobi, because you have like your low end, your mid, and I would say your higher end, which would be maybe like the Sheraton. Sheraton don't give my son free breakfast, so I ain't going to Sheraton. Um, but Lotus Inn, I did like it. The people were absolutely awesome. The lady at the front desk, I think her name was Diana or Dana, something like that. She was amazing. I left her a tip because she was absolutely amazing. One of the things you have to know is you cannot book a train ticket on Kenya Railways Madarake unless you have their local money, their mobile money. I can't remember what their app is right now. But what you can have is your hotel or Airbnb book the train for you and you give them the money. So that is an option, but no, you can't book it with your credit card or your debit card. So she booked that for me when I needed to change it. She told me how to change it. She told me where to go, what to do, where not to go, when not to do it. There are some rules you need to follow while you are in Kenya. It is wheelchair accessible. It had an elevator right there. Our elevator was always working. The only thing is, a lot of these bathrooms they do not have the bars. So what happens is my son ends up falling. So one trick that I use is I put a towel in the shower for him to step on so he doesn't fall. So even if you feel like the floor is too slick, just have them give you an extra like floor towel and just sit that in there to create some traction in there. Because a lot of times they do not have the bars in there for them to hold on to. Otherwise, that would be my only complaint about the hotel. It was right next to the mall, the Westland Mall. I love that mall. We were able to walk there, but those streets are not built for walking with a disability. Those streets are not built for using a wheelchair with a disability. So we walked there once and that was it. It was a little, it's a lot of potholes. It's a little iffy. Just go ahead, take the Uber. It's like $5. If it's even $5, go ahead and take the Uber. Because I love walking places, but everywhere we go, especially when we're looking at certain countries, is not walkable, and you're not trying to mess up your wheelchair going through these streets and ditching and dodging, and then you gotta walk in the street because it's really not a sidewalk that's convenient for a wheelchair or a disability. So I will say that it's really not worth doing a lot of walking. Even when we stayed over by the Yaya Center, when we came back, we stayed somewhere else. It just do the Uber, y'all. So we stayed there a few days. We ended up getting sick, so then we stayed there a few extra days. After that, we set up our safari. Now, yeah, we had set up the safari, then I canceled the safari, then I came back and did the safari again. But then, y'all, so I did my safari with just a second. I did my safari with Jockey Tours. The reason why I chose Jockey Tours, I saw them on Viator, they had 5 stars. On Google, they still had 5 stars. On TripAdvisor, they still had 5 stars or close to it, 4.5 to 5 stars. They had consistent reviews across the board, and that was important to me because I did see companies that may have had 5 stars on Viator, but 3 stars when they got to Google. So that was important to me. I booked a 5-day safari, 2 days in Masamara, 1 day in Lake Navasha, 1 day in Lake Narakuro, something like that. When you look it up, you'll see it. They do have smaller safaris, but I'm like, yeah, go big or go home, right? So my safari guide was Jeff. Jeff was absolutely amazing, hands down. If you do Jockey Tours, I would definitely recommend Jeff. Jeff was really knowledgeable, but what makes me personally recommend it, because I'm like, most of these guides are probably knowledgeable, right? Was I did not think about how high up a safari bus was. Like, it never dawned on me that getting on the safari bus would be a challenge. And with my son, even with his crutches, he can't lift himself up that way. And every single stop, y'all, Jeff was there to lift him up, put him in there, take him down. He never complained about it. He was, it was just part of what he was doing. I didn't even have to ask him. He came and did it. If we were walking somewhere, he was helpful in getting us there. There was a time where my son didn't want to go to something. He just hung out in the front seat with Jeff. So, I was just very comfortable with the situation. He took pictures, he did all the stuff the regular tour guide would do, but just that extra assistance with helping me with my son was definitely made a huge difference on our tour, because this could have made or break it. Made or broke the tour, because it's that's a lot. And I have a back injury, so I'm not able to pick my son up. And there was no step stool. That would be one thing I would recommend them get, is a step stool. Just get a folding step stool to keep in the back, just in case. It just would make things a little simpler. But tour was amazing. Masai Mara, amazing. We saw all the animals. We saw everything. We saw all of the big five: the rhinos, the elephants, the zebras, the giraffes, in Lake Nakuru. So after you do Masai Mara, everybody doesn't stay on this tour with you. So we were doing 5 days. The first set of people were doing 3 days, and somebody else was doing 4 days. But after 3 days, everybody else, they went, we dropped them off, or they went with another guide, depending on what it is that they wanted to do. So we continued on to those 2 places. And Lake Nakuru and Lake Navasha. I'm pretty sure some Kenyans laughing at me right now. So we continued on there. What Jeff asked didn't tell me was that was a 5-hour ride. I had no idea we were about to be in here for 5 hours. So that was kind of a free day that day, because you did a lot of travel. The next day we did Hell's Gate, and that was something I really wanted to do. Jeff convinced me to do rock climbing. So, YOLO. It was December 31st, 2023, last day of the year. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and check off rock climbing. So I did end up going rock climbing, and it was absolutely amazing. It was only like 1,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings, whatever it was hella, it was not expensive at all. 1,000 shillings around this time is about $7. So 2,000 shillings. 2,000 shillings, 3,000 shillings. It was under $20. It was $20 or less. So, and that came with all the equipment, the shoes, the headgear, and the guide that told you exactly where to step or to grab onto. He knew Hell's Gate. He knew that mountain like the back of his hand. I don't really know the back of my hand, but he knew that mountain well. So I did rock climbing. We went through Hell's Gate. If you do have time, you can bike through Hell's Gate. Of course, my son couldn't bike, so Jeff drove us through Hell's Gate. Now in Masai Mara, I stayed at the Jambo Village. Jamba Village. I didn't do the regular accommodations. I saw the pictures of the regular accommodations, and I wasn't going to do that. This bougie chick wasn't gonna do that. I don't know what. We went and picked them up, and it just looked like stone. I don't know. I remember the lady saying, "Oh, that's where they get the water from," and I don't know if that thing was a well that they were pulling up. I don't know what was going on out there, but this bougie chick was not doing it. So I stayed at Jambo Village. It was very nice. It had a pool. It had pool tables. It had ping pong. I didn't do any of that. I enjoyed being there. Outside our door, because we had a beautiful glass cabin. And outside our door, we had the monkeys. What are they called? They're my son's favorite animal now. Whatever those little bad monkeys are called. The little bad monkeys, they were out there fighting and carrying on. So we had a whole little exhibit that we watched, the monkeys fighting and doing whatever it is that they do. It was always these birds. It's this lovely archway that you walk through to get to your room. Just beautiful. I would sit out at the pool. things like that. Just absolutely beautiful. The food was amazing. Everything, you had a buffet for everything, and there were vegetarian options, there were regular options. The only thing I would say is the walkway to get to the food was a little narrow for a wheelchair. And I will say you want to make sure that they know to put you close to the front. They did not, and they were full. So the first night we were towards the back, and the second night we were towards the front. I did not bring my wheelchair on the safari because I was told that I probably wouldn't need it. That was not true. In hindsight, I would have taken my wheelchair on the safari. Even though my son uses crutches and can walk short distances, there are some times where there are long distances. So go ahead and take your wheelchair, because we had to stay in the back of the towards the back of the resort, and that was really a lot on him, and they did not have a wheelchair there. So I would say Jambo Village, get a wheelchair, keep one there. Um, the next place that we stayed in, I was not a fan. I can't remember the name of it, unfortunately. But it was the second location we stayed in. If I remember, I will add it there. I was not a fan. The bathrooms were not clean. I wasn't able to upgrade this one. I'm a clean freak. The bathrooms were not clean enough for me. I didn't like it at all. They had a little bar, they had a pool. It was something spa. It was still considered a spa and resort, but no, it was not up to par. But I'll look back and see if I can find out where that was. I didn't like that one at all. But everything, they actually had a wheelchair. Um, but the rooms are upstairs. I don't think they have any rooms on the first floor, and they didn't have any elevators, which is odd. They had a wheelchair, but they had nothing else that was handicap accessible. So when you make your reservations, definitely make sure you tell them this, because I did tell them that I had a wheelchair, and that he used crutches, and they did not make the necessary changes on the hotel, that second hotel. Um, and the third hotel I went to was kind of like one of them outdoor hotels. Think like, what was that in Freddy Krueger, the Bates Motel? Sorry. Um, think that, but actually it was much cleaner than the other place. Very small. It was just room for a little table, two beds. But when you're out doing safari, small is fine, because y'all still doing better than being in a tent, right? So small is fine. Um, let's see, yeah, that one was nice. They had breakfast, and they still fed you. All these places fed you. Nobody had as good food as Jambo Village. I'm just gonna let you know that now. That food was off the chain. They really set you up for greatness there. So it was definitely worth my upgrade, even though I may have paid too much for my upgrade, but y'all, it was worth the upgrade. And I don't want to tell you what I paid, because since I have Rwandan residency, my price is different as an East African um, um, visa holder than your price would be as not an East African visa holder. So I don't want to tell y'all my price, because y'all about to be mad. So so make sure you look up the prices, but I will say that I feel like Jambo was fair. Um, let's see what else. There was one tour we went on, they tried to tell me that I was supposed to pay for, and I was like, I ain't paying for nothing. I done paid y'all how much? No, y'all ain't getting no more money. Y'all better pay for that and get us through here. So in the end, they did. Jeff had to work that out, honey. You're gonna have to work that out, or I'm not going. And that was where I went to see the flamingos, which I think is Lake Nakura. One of those lakes I didn't go to. I was tired. 5 days of safari is tiring. Y'all, I was tired. I was like, I'm about to sleep late, Jeff. I don't care. I am sleeping late, and I will not make it to this lake. And he just laughed at me. But I was like, and that was New Year's Eve. I had went out and everything. Honey, please, nah, I wasn't making it to that lake. So whatever that lake does, whatever they do on that lake on the boat, it's like a boat safari. Y'all tell me about it in the comments. Because no, I was sleeping late. It was New Year's Day. I had went out the night before and I was gonna sleep late. So, that was cool. Now, side note, I don't know if Jeff Boss watching or whatever it is. Jeff will assist you in going to the club if you need to know where to go. So that's an option as well. You know, I don't know. Hopefully, I don't get Jeff in trouble. The client, wanted to go to the club, so I needed somebody to tell me where to go. So, yeah, so that's an option also. If you want to go out, let's see what else. So, I felt like if you are 100% dependent on a wheelchair, this is not the recommended safari for you. The safari company for you. I would recommend maybe seeing if there is a company that has a wheelchair accessible van. However, if you have some mobility, then I feel like you can do this particular one. Just make sure you have your chair with you, just in case you need it at any point. Let's see, because like my son got in the pool at the second place, the one I didn't like, and it was so hard to get him back out of that pool because they only had a ladder. It's easy if they have steps, but when they only have a ladder, life gets very difficult. Let's see. So that will complete that. In the end, he brought me back to Nairobi. They will pick you up and drop you off at the place of your choosing. My pickup was at Lotus Inn where I stayed. My drop off was at the train station where I was heading on to Mombasa. I will tell you, to travel back is about 2 hours to get back to Nairobi. To get on a train to Mombasa is 5 hours. And then I went to Malindi, which was another 3 hours. Don't do that. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. I promise you, it is not worth it. If you want to go to Malindi, take a flight. I had no idea this would be so long. And, Jeff was like, "You're going where?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "You're going to be traveling all day." No, I won't. Jeff, you were right. I was traveling all day. All damn day. Awful. Malindi is hot as hell. I didn't do anything in Malindi. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie to y'all. It was so hot. All I wanted to do was leave. I was dying in Malindi. Where I was staying, there was no AC. I was dying in Malindi. So I didn't do anything. They say the beach is beautiful out there. There's a marine park. I wouldn't know. I was dying in Malindi. I got up out of Malindi. I ended up going back to Mombasa. I thought about going to Diani, but that was another hour, and people wanted to charge you $100 just to take you to Diani. And you had to go over a bridge, which I was like, so when it's time for me to come, and the bridge sounded like it was pretty, you didn't really know what was going on. Apparently there's a boat that comes. Nobody seems to know when the boat comes. It's very unpredictable. So regardless, you probably needed to stay the night in Mombasa before you left, or do a late flight if you were going to Diani. There were too much uncertainties surrounding that for me. So I just stayed in Mombasa. Mombasa, I would say you can definitely do your wheelchair there. It is a much quieter community, so you can walk with the wheelchair. The streets are a bit better, in my opinion. They're not great, don't get me wrong, but they're better to move around with a wheelchair. The mall is wheelchair accessible. Even in Nairobi, all the malls are wheelchair accessible. They do have Uber and Bolt. I did not use those because I was told that Uber and Bolt there, the people try to upcharge you. That's what my hotel let me know. They try to upcharge you, and you're just better off negotiating with a taxi driver or doing a tuk-tuk. Tuk-tuks are super cheap, but if you're in a wheelchair, you can't take the wheelchair on a tuk-tuk, but you can take the crutches. You can take the wheelchair on a taxi if you need to do that, but it is a very walkable place. So most places you can probably walk to, unless you're going into town. There was a lot I didn't do when I got on the coast. I didn't go into town. I didn't go to the fort. I was tired, y'all. I was still tired from traveling and being hot. So we went to Haller Park, which was really, really cool, very inexpensive. Well, actually, I paid residence, so I don't know how much Haller Park is. I don't think it's expensive. But that was really cool because right when you're in Haller Park, you're actually walking with the animals. So you see, if you go at 10 a.m. or 3 p.m., I think those are time. That's when they feed the animals. That's when you should try to go. Not like us at 12 p.m. where we didn't get to see them feed the animals, because that's when you're going to be able to see the hippo and the giraffe. It wasn't a huge blow to us because we had already did Giraffe Manor, which was amazing and wheelchair accessible. We had done the Elephant Orphanage, which the people were absolutely amazing in helping us get to the elephants. We even adopted a baby elephant. What's her name? Cam knows her name. Mitsu? Mitsu? I don't remember the name right now, but we went to Animal Elephant Orphanage, and we had went to Nairobi Safari as well, Nairobi National Park Safari and Nairobi Museum. So I'm gonna be honest with you, there were no lack of animals in our life by this time. My son just wanted to go, so we went. So we were cool not seeing the giraffes or hippos. But if this is gonna be your only safari, or you're not doing a big safari like the Nairobi National Park or Masai Mara, then I would say make sure you get there during those times so you don't miss out on that. What else will I say? We also went to a local beach in Mombasa. Don't do that. Don't do it. They're not nice. Don't do it to yourself. If you want to go to the beach, go ahead to Diani or Malinde. If you go to a local beach, don't have no expectations. None. Don't expect anything at all. If you expect absolutely nothing, you will not be disappointed. Did you hear me? Hear me loud and clear now. Expect nothing, so you will not be disappointed, because that's one of the worst beaches I've ever been to. As far as them selling stuff, they had lots of stuff to sell. It was very cheap. That was cool, but the beach itself was awful. I ended up taking a little boat. I went to Pirates Beach. I ended up taking a little boat, and they took us out and gave us some water that looked a little bit better. And they showed us like some crabs, and they were like, you can go snorkeling, and I was like, I'm not getting in that to go snorkeling. So my son enjoyed it, but y'all know kids enjoy anything, honey. So you get them some water and they good. So but me, this bougie chick over here, nah, no. So but we made it to a beach before we left the coast of Kenya. Yeah, that was that. So heading back, I wasn't doing another 5-hour train. It was hot. You got to pull the luggage. You got to tip the porter. I don't know what to tip the porter. I tipped the porter. I think I gave him 100 shillings. That man looked at me like I was crazy. I couldn't even, at the time, I didn't know what 100 shillings was. 100 shillings isn't even $1, y'all. I felt bad, but wasn't nothing I could do because the train had taken off, and that's all I had at that moment. So instead of doing that, I just went ahead and booked a flight. That flight was like $80 each one way. I didn't care. It was hot. I had to drag this luggage. I had this wheelchair, and I just wasn't doing another 5 hours. And it's a lot of work going up and down to get on that train. It's cool the first time for the scenery. Maybe you'll see an animal. Maybe you won't. But I got on that plane, got back to Nairobi in like 30, 45 minutes, and kept it moving, kept it pushing, y'all. I ain't had 5 more hours in me. This time I decided to do an Airbnb, because one thing I didn't tell you is that this was part of a what do we call it when we think we want to live somewhere? Whatever, one of those things where you think you want to live there, so you want to go around to different places to see how they are. So I decided to stay in the Yaya Center neighborhood. I think it's Lavington or something like that. May have started with a K. I don't know. The apartment was absolutely gorgeous. 2 bedroom, huge, beautiful view of the outs of the city. You know, you had a balcony off the living room. You had a view from your bedroom, from the second bedroom. Absolutely amazing. The buildings. Oh, I told my dad, in my opinion, the buildings remind me of New York City before gentrification. That's what it looks like in Kenya to me. There's so much to do. There's so many malls. We went to 4 or 5 malls. All of them are accessible. They all have wheelchairs. If you don't take your wheelchair, they all have wheelchairs that you can use. You just have to leave an ID. They all have play areas to go to, so it's so much stuff to do in the malls. We went to one that had virtual reality. My son didn't want to do it, you know, sensory stuff, but I did it. I had fun. They had all kinds of stuff. Be careful in the mall. My son's phone was stolen out of my purse in the mall, out of my purse. We were in the elevator. People were pushing. I was told that was the way that they make a distraction, and I was trying to make sure he didn't fall over because he had his crutches at the time. I had just turned in the wheelchair, and they stole his phone out of my purse. As soon as I got on the elevator, I realized, looked down, the phone was gone. So I will say, be very, very mindful, because that is very common in Nairobi. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Let me know if you have any questions. Put stuff down in the chat. I know I've been talking for almost an hour, but I wanted to make sure I covered everything for you. Like I said, go to the Giraffe Center. I would skip Karen Blixen. To me, that was a waste of time. Yeah, I really could have skipped that. It's just a little house that you walk through. But if you really want to go, go. The wheelchair can go through the house. It is tight quarters, but it can go through the house. Um, I did go to Bomas of Kenya. I wasn't there for the entire show, but it is a nice show. The way that you go in, you can sit at the top, so it is wheelchair accessible for that reason. Then they have the Bomas of Kenya, where they have the different houses you can see. So that's really cool as well. I'll show you that. Elephant Orphanage was amazing, hands down my favorite thing. Absolutely love elephants. One came up to me and touched me. I'll give you a link to that video. He put his trunk on us and he just loved on us, so I ended up adopting that one. That Mitzi is her name. Mitzi is a baby. She's 2, so you can adopt an elephant from the Cedric Elephant Orphanage. Definitely go to the National Museum in Nairobi. That was very, very enlightening. I love education. And I would also recommend going before you go on your safaris. It was so great that I went before my safaris, and I did get a guide, and I did tip him more than 100 shillings at the time I had money. So he got a very nice tip. But they tell you about all the animals and all these characteristics. So by the time you go on the safari, you actually know what you're looking for. So that would definitely be my tip, to do that. Let's see, what else? I don't know. Ask me any questions you may have, whether it's about disabilities, special needs, just touring Kenya in general. And I really hope that this was helpful for you. I may do a live at some point. Y'all, I don't know. So, thank you for watching. If you made it to the end, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And ciao.